Ever wondered how much money you can actually stash in your Monzo account? It's a question I get asked a lot, and it's a pretty important one, especially if you're thinking about using Monzo for more than just your everyday spending. Maybe you're planning a big purchase, saving for a house deposit, or perhaps you're just curious about the limits. Whatever your reason, knowing the deposit limits is crucial for managing your finances effectively. Now, before we dive into the specifics, let's just touch on why these limits exist in the first place. It's not just Monzo being difficult. These limits are largely in place for regulatory reasons, designed to protect both the bank and its customers. They help prevent things like money laundering and ensure the overall stability of the financial system. Think of them as guardrails, keeping everything safe and sound. So, let's get down to brass tacks. What's the maximum you can actually deposit into your Monzo account? The answer, like many things in life, isn't entirely straightforward. It depends. Yes, I know, the dreaded "it depends" answer. But bear with me, because it's important to understand the nuances. The primary factor influencing your deposit limit is your account type. Monzo offers different account tiers, each with its own set of limits. For most everyday users, you'll likely be on a personal account. And within personal accounts, there can be further variations. For example, there might be different limits for cash deposits compared to electronic transfers. Let's start with cash deposits. Now, cash deposits with Monzo are a little different than traditional banks. You can't just walk into a Monzo branch because, well, there aren't any. Instead, Monzo partners with a network of paypoints across the UK. These are typically located in shops and newsagents. You can deposit cash at these paypoints, but there are limits to how much you can deposit in one go, as well as daily and weekly limits. These limits are set by paypoint, not Monzo directly, so they can vary slightly. It's always a good idea to check the paypoint's own terms and conditions or ask in store for their specific limits. Now, let's move on to the more common method of depositing money, electronic transfers. This is where you transfer money from another bank account to your Monzo account. This is generally the most convenient and often the most efficient way to top up your Monzo balance. And the good news is, for electronic transfers, the limits are typically much higher than cash deposits. However, even with electronic transfers, there are still limits. These limits can vary depending on your account type and sometimes even your transaction history. Newer accounts might have lower initial limits, which can then increase over time as you build a track record with Monzo. This is all part of their security measures. It's also worth noting that these limits aren't set in stone. They can be subject to change. Monzo might adjust their limits periodically based on various factors, including regulatory requirements and their own internal risk assessments. So, the best way to stay completely up to date on your specific deposit limits is to check your Monzo app. It's the most reliable source of information. Inside the app, you should be able to find details about your account limits, including deposit limits for different methods. Now, you might be thinking, okay, I understand there are limits. But what if I need to deposit a really large sum of money? That's a valid question. If you're planning a large deposit that exceeds your usual limits, the best course of action is to contact Monzo customer support directly. They'll be able to guide you through the process and potentially make arrangements for larger deposits. They might ask you for some additional information about the source of the funds, again, purely for regulatory reasons. This is nothing to be alarmed about. It's standard practice for financial institutions. So, to summarize, there's no single magic number for the maximum deposit limit in Monzo. It depends on your account type, the method of deposit, cash or electronic transfer, and potentially your transaction history. The most reliable way to find your specific limits is to check your Monzo app. And if you're planning a large deposit, don't hesitate to reach out to Monzo customer support. Now, another related question I often get asked is about the maximum balance you can hold in your Monzo account. This is different from the deposit limit. The deposit limit refers to how much you can put in at a time, while the balance limit refers to the total amount you can have in your account at any given moment. And just like deposit limits, balance limits can also vary. Again, the best place to check your balance limit is your Monzo app. It's also important to remember that these limits are in place for a reason. They're not designed to inconvenience you, but rather to protect you and the financial system. By understanding these limits, you can better manage your finances and avoid any unexpected hiccups. So, next time you're wondering how much you can deposit into your Monzo account, don't just guess. Check your app. It's the quickest and easiest way to get the most accurate and up-to-date information. And if you have any questions or concerns, Monzo's customer support is always there to help. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.